Now what? So far, we have talked about separation. We have also talked about some things to do in the astral plane, how the astral plane might look, and also modes of transportation. In part 5, I'd like to focus on a subject that many people are interested in, and that is visiting people in the 3D world. And as always, I will use examples from my own experiences. Now, they are obviously my experiences, and others might have different experiences. So I can only really truly communicate to you what my experiences are. Now, obviously, the mode of transportation to me here, the most efficient way to get to where you want to be in regards to doing this is through the power of thought. And with me, what I've always done is I think of the person, but not only that, more importantly, I think of the bond that I have with the person, the emotional connection. Now, this connection, I believe, literally acts as a force that draws you to that person so that you can go to see them. However, it's so interesting to me. People consider seeing other people as, going to their apartment or going to their house, maybe, and actually seeing them in that environment. But connection means a lot more in the astral plane, and it's what people don't think about. I'm sure in a lot of people's minds, they're thinking, okay, so I go flying over to my friend's or family member or whoever's house, and now I can, maybe I can watch them sleep, or I can watch what they do on a normal basis. And at least in my experience, it just doesn't work like that. You see, as beings, we exist on many different levels, and there are many different ways to connect with another being, not just going over their house and hanging out with them. There are many other ways, because while you are the person that's sitting and listening to this, you are also out doing an infinite number of different things. You exist on so many different levels. So our connection could be in many different ways, and you might not even realize it, or you probably wouldn't even realize that that connection is happening on another level. So what I'm saying all this to say is that going to visit someone may be a bit more complicated than you think it's going to be, perhaps. And after all these years, I have kind of come to this point in this conclusion from all the times that I've tried to visit people and ended up in places that were confusing. Let me begin by giving you a few personal examples from my experiences. I have a friend, a female friend, who is like a sister to me. We have been friends for over 20 years. And at one point I asked her, I said, because she knows I astral project, I said, would it be okay if I actually tried to visit you? So I notified her. I said, hey, I was thinking about this. Would you be cool with it? And she said, yeah, sure. Why not? So one night I tried to actually go and see her. And I, of course, used the power of thought. When you use the power of thought, of course, you focus on that person, you focus on the connection, the love. She's like a sister to me, and I focus on that love that I have for her. And, when you travel with the power of thought, it's so amazing, because it's just like, woof, it goes really fast, and you're just drawn there, and everything else, it's like it's almost like your surroundings form a kind of tunnel, and you're drawn towards some point, and then at this point you can see it. It's almost like going in a tunnel, towards a point of light, and you arrive there. It's just an amazing feeling. I again have talked about this feeling before of moving with the power of thought, but every time I think about it, I'm just like, wow, I'm just jazzed because it's such a cool feeling. Now, I arrived not at her house, but in a field. And in this field, if you could think of, there's this poster from World War II. And in the images I'm using for this video, I'm going to show a picture of it. It's about, this poster is featuring this lady from World War II. She's wearing a scarf. The reason why I'm showing this at this moment is because I want you to see kind of an example of what I saw with my friend and the way she looked, the way she was dressed. She had a scarf like that poster, and she kind of looked like that person in a poster too. She looked different. She didn't look the same that she looks in the 3D world. She was thinner in this. In fact, she looked like she was someone who worked out 7 days a week. She was cut, she was chiseled, and in this world, she doesn't look like that. And I just saw her. She was working in this field. It looked like she was doing field work, using things to work, the dirt. And I just stared at her and I thought, this isn't my friend, but it is. I can see her. I connected with some version of her, but that version wasn't necessarily her in the 3D world. And that's what I mean. When you say you want to go see someone, you want to go visit someone, what version of them do you want to visit? And when you put that out in the astral plane, you're going to be drawn perhaps to another version of them in another place. Like I said, it can be a little more complicated than just going through a wall in somebody else's house. I'm not saying that that can't happen. I'm just saying that in my experiences, it really hasn't been, it really has not been that simple. In this next example, this is actually one that I've talked about before, but I wanted to bring up again in this series. And it was an old crush that I had, someone that I had a crush on years and years ago when I was in junior high school. And within the last, actually, this probably happened within the last year. I was just thinking it would be interesting to check up on this person to see how they're doing. So I started thinking about them. I started thinking about the person. Now, I don't believe I had a really deep connection with the person. This person was my first crush, the first crush that I ever had. So maybe that's what it is that drew me to whatever I ended up going. But so it was the usual thing where, I'm traveling with the power of thought and it's like whoosh, suddenly I'm there. But I was in some sort of subterranean cave kind of place. At least that's what it seemed to me when I was in there. It was dark. I could see kind of rocks and other things. It did remind me of being in a cave, and I saw an entrance to what appeared to me to be some kind of club. And I think I actually almost may have heard music. I don't remember if I did or I didn't at this moment. But there was a bouncer that was standing out front, and I asked about this person. I said the person's name. The person said, hold, the bouncer, whoever this was, probably her guide. I always talk about a guide like being a bouncer or being a gatekeeper, calls in and says, hey, are you there? Do you want to come out? And this guide uses this person's name. Suddenly, all these people started coming out. Men, women, different colors, different sizes. Hundreds of them came out, and they were around me, and they were very friendly with me, and they were very nice to me. And in the end, I thought, wow, these people or these beings must be perhaps different versions of this person. And they all came out at the same time to see me, to meet with me, to talk with me. I stood there for a while and I just hung out, and then I returned. Again, this is, I believe, more than just going over to someone's house and seeing them in their environment. This is connecting with someone on a whole nother level. So this is something to think about. If you're going to go visit someone, I would say this, because your experience is probably going to be different than my experience. I think everybody's experiences are going to be different. If this is something that you're interested in doing once you're out, expect the unexpected. That's just the best way to say it, because honestly, I really can't tell you what you're going to get. And so be open. It'll be, if anything, fascinating, very interesting. So let's end part 5 here. In part 6, we will continue with this series, and I'll continue with my suggestions. Thank you so much for coming on another journey with me, and until next time, take care.